We can just let them come in. All right, so Esther part 2. I almost said take 2, but that would mean we're reading. It's part 2, part 2. And I wrote my notes in purple so that they would hopefully stand out on me, because this is everywhere, and I wouldn't get all confused. But can't guarantee that I won't get all confused, because I will. All right, so we did a lot of the background last week, and the area geographically, and that her name is Myrtle. It means the myrtle in Hebrew, her Hebrew name. So now we're going to get more into the character of Esther and some of those around her, like the king, her husband, and Mordecai. But we're still going on the theme of we all have God-appointed authorities over our lives, and we're commanded by God to obey them, except for an exception that we'll go over in just a minute. And we can say, well, I don't fit that we all fit one of these categories. You're supposed to obey him, number one, if you love him. So I remember when that verse hit me as an adult. When I really thought about it, I thought, wow, if I bet some days he thinks I don't love him because I'm so disobedient, and it just was an eye opener that I think I need to do this, and this for Christ, and all he's asking is I just obey him. I'm like, okay. So obviously, obedience is huge to God. He says, if you love me, you obey me. And also look at people who suffered some consequences for disobedience. Moses, wasn't able to go to the promised land. He got to look at it, but he didn't get to go in it. And contrary to some people, they thought it was because of the murder of the Egyptian. It was actually because he hit the rock in the wilderness instead of speaking to the rock to make water come forth. That simple act of disobedience. Saul's disobedience. Now we have Haman in our story because he didn't wipe out that sounds really so aggressive, because he didn't kill a whole culture off and wipe them off the face of the earth. That sounds really brutal. There is violence in the Old Testament. I'm not going to lie. Well, actually in the New One too, but still, it's just like, that sounds so harsh. Okay, so the categories we had were wives to obey husbands, children to obey parents, employees to obey their employers unless it's something that's breaking the law. Citizens are to obey their government. Students are to obey their teachers. Don't we wish? Yeah. And I say that, and if any of my old teachers from high school, again, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And my drama coach from college, I'm sorry. I still am sorry. And I got all of it back as a homeschool mom. Trust me. And church members are to obey their pastoral staff. That we usually don't like that one. I'm going to talk about that personally, okay? So we'll get to that. We stopped with the citizens to obey their government. I'm going to go ahead and just jump to the one about the church members obeying their pastors. And, we almost... Hi, Teresa. Come on in. No, you're fine. We're just like you haven't been here. I think sometimes I'm hesitant to talk about this online because some people take it as, oh, they're a cult, blah, blah, blah. They only do King James only at that church. And that sometimes because of other churches who are King James only, they have made a bad reputation for some of us. Some of them are so legalistic and abusive that they've made it bad for us. But we don't follow our pastors, and I say pastors because we have 3 now. We don't follow our pastors as if we're in a cult. We don't blindly follow them. We have our own responsibility. We call it soul liberty. We're responsible for our own spiritual growth and accountability and blah, blah, blah. But since we are a group, we do have to have leaders, and there are some things we have to obey. but not because we're this King James only. In fact, y'all don't know it, but all the ladies here are in prairie dresses, okay? They're in prairie dresses because we're King James only. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay, let's go to Hebrews 13. I like the book of Hebrews. Did we ever study it? Maybe we should. Hebrews or Galatians, we'll see. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 7. Remember them which have the rule over you, who have spoken unto you the word of God, whose faith follow, considering the end of their conversation. And then we're going to jump down to 17 in the same chapter. 17 is, obey them that have rule over you and submit yourselves. For they watch for your souls, as they that must give account, they may do it with joy and not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you. I know there's sometimes, my husband's been, we're in Hebrews 13, we did 7 and 17. And I know sometimes my husband has probably had grief being accountable for me. But anyway, so that sounds like, oh, we should just do whatever the pastoral staff says. Well, this is saying, remember that we come to church, and when you come to church, you're agreeing, hey, we're going to hang out together and have unity. Our pastor is our leader. And if you question a decision of his, you're allowed to. We're not told to just sit down and be quiet. But go by the model that we're going to see here in this lesson. And this is like, if you need to approach any of your authorities, it could be a pastor, an employer, your husband, or a friend. I mean, if you're not at this age, none of us are under our parents' authority. We don't have to obey our parents at this age. We have to honor our parents. And sometimes you have to honor families from a distance, because sometimes there's toxic situations in families. But anyway, no matter who we're honoring, whom we're obeying, we're going to talk about how Esther, what not formula, but what model she did of being submissive. Hi, come on in. Submissive to. Did you get to come last week? Yeah. Oh, good. Come get a tiara, and you get to take it home. So we're all sitting around tiaras. This is not normal. We don't normally sit around in tiaras. Well, you might at home. I do. Okay. These authorities do what? Do it. If it makes people wonder why, and you can share what you've learned, that'd be great. I'm being totally serious too. So we are to obey these authorities. I'll be honest with you. I'm a pretty headstrong person, so rebelliousness is easy for me to have. In fact, there's been times. Okay, I'm just gonna be kind of. I didn't mean to share this, but there's sometimes, as much as I love the church family and I want us to be unity and unified and everything, we'll go through something and I can feel a rebellious in me, not want to submit to being unified with my church family. And so I got to tell you, I hit my knees when I feel that spirit coming on. Because I don't want to be rebellious. So the reason why I'm sharing this is I struggle to make sure I'm being obedient and submissive to the authorities over me. And if you think I'm kidding, my husband is downstairs. You can ask him. And maybe I outwardly am showing that I'm obeying him, but I have a attitude, or I did it with like sarcastic tone to him. Okay, whatever, like that. So I'm not real fond of that about myself at all, especially because the Bible calls, rebellion is kind of equal to witchcraft. And I'm like, oh, yikes. So this is something that's for me, that I'm learning from. This is me not preaching to any of you. This is just what I've been learning from this lesson, because I don't like accountability. I don't like constructive criticism. So I fight it. Yes.
I think you do, but I think it's on your level. Because, like, we all like that on our level. I'm great with my own accountability. I have my own terms. It may not be in line with yours, but I have my terms. So I feel like most people operate like that.
She brought up that we're all, like, on our own terms, kind of. So that's cool. And the bottom line is, though, one day I'm going to have to stand in front of the Lord. And we're going to be talking about that at the end of this lesson of that day. Now, I won't stand before him begging to get into heaven. I'm in heaven. But I will be held accountable for what I did for the cause of Christ. And it's not like I'm going to be punished. I'm not going to be punished. But I'm going to lose out on rewards because of missed opportunities. So we have it in a reverse way. So the great white throne, right, is different than the judgment seat of Christ. So make sure you know those are different, okay? And maybe someday we can do a study on all that. But to be honest with you, that's one of those topics that I have up here, but trying to teach it, I feel too nervous about sometimes. So I would have to do even more studying. Okay, so back to Esther. I did want to, so one of the points that I followed this one guy who wrote this lesson, so the majority is his stuff, but I've tweaked a lot of it because I don't agree with everything he said. Imagine that! Again, that rebellion! Anyway, but it said, these delegated authorities are to be obeyed, whether we like their commands, agree with their commands, or understand their commands. Now, I personally go straight to whoever's president, because there's times I'm like, I just cannot stand that person, and the Lord says, too bad. I've put him in authority over you. I'm like, oh, okay. The only exception is when their commands would cause us to violate the absolute authority of God. Now, how would I know it's the authority of God? Well, if they ask you to break the law, that's against what God wants you to do. But look in book of Acts. That mouth. Okay, chapter 5, verse 29. Hold on, I gotta get some water here. Okay. Chapter 5, Acts 5:29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men. So, because the high priest said, didn't we tell you to stop teaching in Jesus' name and you do this? And they're like, yeah, but we obey God. So now that's not, I know some Christians who've kind of abused this, misused this, maybe I should say, and didn't pay their income tax because income tax is not it's not constitutional. It's not. But we're living in this land. We've agreed to abide by the laws of this land, and we enjoy the freedom of our citizenship. So we don't get to just pull well, it's better to obey God than men. Because God would be like, I actually told you, render to Caesar's what is Caesar's, right? So and I struggle with that because I'm like, but what about our founding fathers? We're a nation because we rebelled against authority. And I realized, but the authority had turned to tyranny. And God does not support tyranny at all. In fact, there are numerous verses that speak out on it, and if we have time, I'll come back and list them all for you. But the one I would want to read is, woe unto them that decree wicked decrees. King George was doing, and that right oppression, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people. That widows may be their prey, and they may rob the fatherless. So King George was doing that to our nation, and he was taxing us and, everything. And so God did, I believe, he gave us the right to disobey and escape tyranny, because the North America, you can see, that would be another good lesson. I firmly believe that God kept Christopher Columbus away from North America because Christopher Columbus repented on his deathbed, but he had turned to greed and had done something. No, we're not going to do let's just crucify his character all over the place like people do nowadays. He did do some very good things. But I think he preserved North America for the separatists who came on the Mayflower, because their goal was to honor God, live worship how they could from the Bible, raise their children in the Bible. And they actually, part of their declaration, they when they had their meetings in Holland, because they were in exile from England, they would talk about, we got to take the gospel to the savages, or whatever they call, we have to take the gospel to them. We need to be the New Jerusalem. We need to be this. So they were very serious. So I really think God protected them. And then, of course, man being man, we started already being sinful within a minute they step off the boat and get on this land. But we were as a nation trying to still be a godly nation, and I think God gave us permission to disobey King George, who had some sick wickedness about him. Okay, we can't even go there. There might be little children's listening. Okay, so the question is that we're going to try to learn is, what can I do? What can I do when my authority over me is about to make a really dumb decision? Don't tell your husband you say, you're about to make a dumb, or an unwise or irresponsible decision. That's an uncomfortable feeling. It's an uncomfortable feeling because you feel like you have no say. That's not what God says at all. God doesn't say you have no say in it. He's just going to show you through the character of Esther of how to handle that situation. Okay? Now, you might be saying, well, I feel like some people have romanticized the Esther story, and it's gross, y'all. Okay? Okay, go look what harem really means and concubine, okay? It's not a good thing. So this was not a great situation that Esther was to be in. Remember, there's some people that say, well, he was so in love with her, he offered her up to half his kingdom. Remember what I told you about that? That was a common saying. It's like, see you later, alligator, kind of thing. So it wasn't, well, I'm not quite that same, but but it was something you just said. So it's not a sign of his devotion and affection to her. Okay? So she had not a godly person over her that she's having to obey. And that's when we're like, why can't I disobey? Because he's in the wrong. He's in the wrong. Yeah, he is. But that's for God to handle. But let me tell you some of the stuff about the king and his personality. It is said in history that he was extremely handsome. I think he probably was, because he acts like he knows he is. All right? And he was vigorous and looked every inch of a king, He was, of course, not of God. He was very wicked. He was full of pride and vanity. He made bad decisions on the battlefield. He made bad decisions in his administration. He seemed to be kind of a hothead, and he made emotional promises. He literally had a huge harem for his bidding. Yep. And he made dumb decisions. How come he didn't know Haman's character a little better? And yet he gives him all this trust and authority, and he just lets them make this decree, hey, we're going to kill all the Jews, and he didn't really read that. Did you read that before you put your little ring signet thing in there, did you? I don't think he did. So he's not like this great romantic character that, if my husband looked and acted like that, it'd be so easy to obey him. Nope, you'd still find no trouble obeying him, because we're human, right? But he's a jerk. He's a full-on jerk. Now, I don't know. I'm sure he treated her nicely. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But that, again, she had to, my thing's got an order. She had to just obey him. So, and the reason why I say that is because I have to remember who's watching online. Okay. All right. Ladies, it is so hard to be submissive to our husbands if you're married. But if he is a narcissist, if he's this, if he's that, sadly, that does not excuse you from obeying him. That unless he is asking you to violate God's law. That's not a fun thing to say. That's not a popular thing to say. But all I can tell you is, if you will honor God, he will take care of you. He will honor you. And you may not see it tomorrow. You know, I don't want to lie to you and make sunshine and sprinkles and rainbows and stuff. It may be a while. And so, anyway.
It's
then
raining tomorrow.
Do what?
It's raining tomorrow.
It's raining tomorrow. So, well, we need it. And then, so part of me started thinking about, before I studied Esther like this, you know, when someone's in the Bible, you kind of almost just like glamorize them and they did no wrong or anything, you know. And so I was glad I studied, because even Esther and Mordecai, y'all, they had a lot of problems. They're supposed to be Jewish, and they're acting Persian. They're even going by Persian names, you know. So you don't have to be like, okay, before I submit to my authority, I need to work on myself and get more godly first. No, you don't have to do that, because Esther wasn't there. She wasn't being godly. Why didn't they even go back to Jerusalem? Why were they still there? And Mordecai was part of the court. So they wasn't like they're these devout Jews. Okay? Yeah.
Sorry, abrupt subject change. Mordecai and Hadassah, those are pretty Jewish names. What were their Persian names?
Esther is her Persian name.
Oh, okay. I thought Esther was like a Bible character, and then
And let me tell you about Mordecai. It's not as Hebrew as you think.
Really?
Yeah, I found that out. So that is over.
Oh, because the Jews nowadays named him after Mordecai, which is.
Yeah, his name was Persian, actually. In the language of the Persian Empire, the name Mordecai was a tribute to the Babylonian god Marduk.
Ooh. So
Okay.
Hadassah is her Jewish name, and Esther is her
Persian name. Mm-hmm. But in Hebrew, it is a combination of the words bitter and crushed or oppressed. Yeah, he's not as godly as we're thinking. So I don't say that to run Esther and Mordecai over the coals. I'm just saying, don't think that you have to be this, person that's in the Bible and that your story's in there and you've got to be so godly before you can do any of this stuff. We're never going to be that people. We're going to have to obey this. God knows us. He knows our hearts. He created us. He knows we're not going to be perfect 100% of the time. That's why he's given us these things. So if you'll just follow this, if you'll just follow what I've asked you to do, it's going to work out. And that's what I had to tell myself. Now, she did appeal because of this decree that Haman did that's going to annihilate the Jews. This would have been, look about how big the empire is. That would have been a lot of Jews killed. They say it would have been like a Hitler level attempt. So this is huge. And we're going to consider the way she approached the manner. Now, yes.
Okay, I have a question about submitting to everything with the husband.
Okay.
Okay, is it literally every single thing unless it's not according to the word of God?
You can disobey as much as you want.
Is it every single thing? Is that?
Well, it's not like our husbands are telling us something we have to obey like every hour, every day. But like, yeah, but you do need to obey. Like if something in the finances, something in raising the children, something in, yeah, you do.
Yeah, because he's going to have to answer for that.
He has to answer doubly.
Yeah.
He has to answer for how he led the family way more than we do. So it does seem harsh on our part, but we're also, remember, I know y'all don't want to hear this. We are coming from decades of feminism coloring our thinking. And it's hard. We fight it. It's in us. It is. So we have to remember, if you are God never made it to where man is supposed to just like dominate over the woman. It's an equal partnership. He's doubly accountable for the wife's spiritual and how he raised the family. He is. But it's not like we are lesser in value at all. Not at all.
I mean, and you can discuss. I mean, because my husband and I discuss things, but at the end of the discussion, if we can't see eye to eye, then I know I need to whatever he says. Because I'm not gonna, if it's wrong, which sometimes I think it is, I'm not gonna have to answer for that. He will. You know. So
I'm gonna have to look up Bible verses.
yeah. Oh yeah. I know what you mean.
You can also make
Yeah,
him
that's-
believe
that's-
that he made a decision, although.
That's right.
Well, and
You can like, you can trade, you
right.
can do like a trade-off, you can be like, well,
I agree. I mean, because sometimes
that's not wrong.
your
right?
husband, sometimes your husband.
There's
Okay,
nothing
wait,
wrong
wait,
with
wait.
trading.
I think you are justifying things, to be honest with you.
Godly
So-
man that loves the Lord, then he's gonna listen to you.
You would think.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, it's the whole thing that goes all into it. It's not like you just marry a man and you're gonna do this and this and this. No. If he's godly and he's following the Lord, and he loves God and he loves you, he's gonna respect what you have to say and he's gonna listen to you. You know, but there are times in every marriage,
Every marriage.
someone has to make the final decision.
Mhm.
He's gonna have to answer for him, so I let him do it.
So if
That's why it's very important for us to marry of like faith.
Well, that's right. But here's the thing. Sometimes we get married and neither one of us are saved, and then later one's saved and one's not. So it's a tricky situation, but you still have to obey God, and God says to obey them. If they're in the wrong, he's going to take care of it.
Yeah, he will.
He's going to take care of it. But it's not over every little thing, like, can I have a drink of water? I mean, it's like not like that. It's about career decisions. What are y'all saying? That's distracting. That is rude. That's talking it. So, so it's not about simple, small things. It's about how are we going to discipline our children? How are we going to educate our children? How are we going to save for our retirement? How are we going to spend our money on a monthly basis? How are we going to worship as a family? And so, like, these are big things. And so we do obey what our husband says, and that way we honor God. And if the husband is in the wrong, I pray, Lord, if I don't really like this, if he needs correction, it can't come from me. So I'm going to have it come from you. If you think he needs to make a different decision, me nagging him ain't going to do it, especially Jeff's personality. He's going to just dig his heels in and see even more. Me nagging is going to say, I don't trust you as a husband, and I think you're dumb. He's even told me that before. When you question my things, you're telling me that you think I'm stupid and you're smarter than I am. And we can't do that to our husbands. First of all, if we didn't trust him and we do think he's dumb, why did we marry him to begin with, you know? So we have to obey him. But I have had times where I didn't think that was the best idea, what he wanted to go forward with. And I hated it. But it wasn't breaking the law. It wasn't breaking any God's moral standards. It wasn't making me disobey, like, my faith, or like, recant God or anything like that. It was just a small thing in the light of eternity. And I actually just prayed, change his heart. If this is what we don't need to do. There more than one time he has. One time he didn't. And Jeff immediately is like, I wish I hadn't made that decision. And he was so beaten up himself. There was no desire to say, I told you so. Because that's not submissive either. That is hateful. So it's a trust thing. It's a trusting that God is going to take care of you. Even if your husband is not making the best decisions. Even if he's not saved. And it's a lot easier to say than do. And this is what, I mean, I told y'all this was going to get into unpopular stuff in this study. So I bribed you with tiaras. So,
I just want to add one
yeah.
thing. One thing that will help me sometimes is when there's big decisions to be made or just little decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I just start praying that God will give him wisdom.
That's right.
And please, Lord, show him how to take care of this problem.
Yeah.
Or please just tell him what to do. Even if it's like buying a new car or where to get something fixed.
Yeah.
There's just dozens of problems that come up in a month, and I just pray that God will give him wisdom. And then when he makes a decision, I really feel that God gave him wisdom, and that was God's choice, not his. And I just have to trust that God gave him the right thing.
And these are good prayers. These are good prayers she's saying. And let me tell you, as an ex-military wife, it was hard. When he would come back, I have to stop making all the decisions. And so I'd have to revamp my thinking. And I was just like we bought that big van. I paid cash for it with the Hope You Don't Die money when he was in Iraq. And I had all these plans for that van. And we're going to do this. And we're only going to put X of miles on it per day to save on gas. And we're going to do this, this, and this. And he comes home and he just took it and went somewhere where he needed to go with it. How dare he? And I had to say, oh, yeah. We're a team. Whoops, And I had to remember, and then I remembered what he went through. They even have the money for us to have that van, and he's still sick from Iraq to this day. And so I'm like, who do I think I am? And so there's it's not a fun message. It's not something I have down perfectly. I struggle with wanting to be right, and I don't. And then when I catch myself, when he says things like, when you say it like that, it makes me feel like you just think I'm really an idiot that doesn't know how to do anything. And then that is very, when I think about it, I'm like, my tone of voice did sound like that, and I hate it. I don't like it at all. And so, yeah, it's not comfortable. But again, it's not over teeny, tiny, tiny little things. And here's the thing. When you get rewarded in small ways, I think God gives us little nuggets to keep us going because we're human. But there's more than one thing that now, through years of working together and submitting and whatever, Jeff will go, oh, I don't need to look at that. I trust your decision. And he has me make the decision. So it's kind of nice how that works out. And he's like, first one, I don't want to deal with it. So, but it does work out. It's just not a topic that gets talked about without sounding like we are this very extremist group that women, we only are put here for the God's green earth to whatever. No. It's not saying we're unequal, and it's not saying any of that. And when I do struggle with obeying, I think about how he is. I don't want the responsibility before God that my husband has for the decisions we make as a family. So it is that quickens me. That is like water in my face. Oh yeah, I don't want. You know what? I don't want that. I don't want that. You're right. And then but Esther didn't have the best dude, okay? And she had a violent dude. And so she's having to really trust. And at the beginning, she didn't say, okay, right away, I'm going to do this. Mordecai had to actually kind of say, hey, man, hey, quit thinking about yourself, chick, stuff like that. But to be honest with you, I've never been put in the matter of that my husband could take my life like Esther. Esther's in this position. She could literally die. She's already seen that he just got rid of Vashti. I don't know if he executed her. There's some things some people that think she did. I don't know. Who knows? But either way, she's not there now. So this was very brave of Esther. She was probably scared, but that's when you are brave, is doing something even though you're scared. So we're going to talk about the way she approached him. She committed the whole thing to God first. She said, okay, we're going to pray. We're going to fast. Now, this is after her initial, like, I ain't even touching this, you know. And then Mordecai's like, hey, you're in this too. You're a Jew. It's going to get you too. Oh, okay. I'll do. Anyway, she committed to praying and fasting and Esther together. Let's look at Esther 4. Esther chapter 4. And verse 16. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. Now, people might say, well, she was going to die anyway, because he's going to kill the Jews. She could have probably hidden her lineage, because at this time, Haman and the king still don't know she's Jewish. But even if she were, it's real easy for us to sit here and never have our lives threatened to go, well, you know. I mean, I cannot imagine what she must have been feeling in that. And I admire her bravery and her handing it over to God, especially because she's not coming from a life that we can see in Scripture. Okay, I'm only going by what's in the Scripture. She's not coming from a life showing that she lived a tight relationship with the Lord. Okay, neither one, she or Mordecai, it doesn't really show that they have that. Because if they did, I don't know, why would Mordecai even say, hey, let's have you be a part of the... Anyway, so, yeah, she committed it to prayer. She showed herself respectful, too. She didn't be like, hey, king, don't you even think about killing all of my people. I'm the queen. Nuh-uh. It wasn't that way at all. She had total respect. Look at Esther 5, 1 and 2. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. That is the most understated sentence. It's like, so he held it out and she went and drew. You know, she's like, oh, thank goodness. He held, woo! Woo, I'm not dying today. You know, that is, I cannot imagine. Was she trembling? I know I would have been. You know, this is just so amazing that she did that. She dressed herself in a royal apparel. I think that was to look pleasing for him. Now, that's not 1950s to want to look pleasing for your husband. Hopefully your husband's wanting to look pleasing for you. But it does seem to be more often that the wife looks more works on looking pleasing than the men do. But she's trying to, I think she's doing this as also a very visual thing. I'm your queen. Okay, maybe look at the royal apparel, and then maybe later you won't hear the words "I'm a Jew." I don't know, but so that's but it's showing respect too. She didn't just show up with her hair in a top knot and some stretched out. I don't want to say anything because what if someone's wearing something online that I bring up? So anyway, she looked nice and stuff like that. She didn't get all in his face. She didn't have an attitude. She didn't be like, oh, you know what? Do you know what your dude Haman is doing? Do you even know? She didn't get like that at all. Nagging is something I have to watch sometimes. And sometimes I don't mean it to sound like a nag. I just, see, I'm not even looking like he's going to hear me. I want to make sure, I don't know if he remembered, and I want to make sure he remembered. But then I'm like, he's a grown man. So I have to work on that one. She didn't bring up the matter right away either. She wasn't touching the scepter and going, hey, by the way, Haman's about to kill everybody that's a Jew and I'm a Jew. She did things in a very methodical, calm way. First of all, she didn't bring up the matter right away. I don't know if that was God's leading. I would like to think it was. But also, he was at work. When they're in their king room, they're ruling, they're judging, they're doing king matters and stuff like that. He was at work. Now, sometimes we have to bother people at work. But I did try to never call my husband at work for a home matter unless I absolutely had to. There's probably only 2 that I can think of. And of course, one of them, when he was in a commander's call, it's like, oh, great. Sorry, but, I'm not saying you can't call your husband. I'm not saying that at all, okay? But if it's something, okay, we're not in the same situation as Esther. None of us are about to have our heads chopped off or this or that, okay? At least if you are, let's have a talk. I don't know who you're hanging out with, but we need to get you some better sets of friends if you're in fear of your life. But anyway, the thing is she waited till it was appropriate time. Maybe she didn't want to do it with other people in the room because there would have been other people in the room. I think that was really wise. I tend to blurt things out. So this is something I need to learn from Esther, because I'm like, oh, I need to tell you about this problem we have. The washing machine's doing. Sometimes I blurt it out because I'm scared I'm going to forget, so I have to just blurt it out, right? And then I realize, probably he didn't want to hear that right then, So, especially not at work. And like I said, as a military wife, there'd be months that I couldn't tell him stuff anyway. And when he would call home, I didn't want it to be, when he finally got a chance to call home, I didn't want him to be hit up with all the problems I was having at home. I faked a lot of stuff. I was like, oh, it's great! Standing in a couple inches of water in the laundry room, but, just different things. I wasn't trying to lie or anything. I was just trying to make sure there was a time later that he could deal with it. Esther also had it's not going to say this in the Bible and stuff, but you can tell by her actions, she's trusting God. I would be like, I'm going to trust God, but first I want to imagine how he might fix it. I need to kind of know how he's going to fix it before I trust God. That's not trust. We actually put that in the play, didn't we? Yeah. We have that in the play. A character is not experiencing peace because they have something going on in their lives, but okay, I'll trust God, but I need to know how he's going to handle this. You don't need to know how he's going to handle this. His nature, his character, everything in this book, he's shown you he's going to take care of you, and he's not going to break his promises to you. So I have to work on, okay, thank you for solving my problem, God. Now tell me how you're going to solve it, because I might have a suggestion or two. I need to approve of how you're going to solve my problems, Lord. Almighty God, thrice holy God, me and my infinite wisdom need to tell you how to help me solve my problem. That's just ludicrous, right? Now, she says she practiced softness. And I almost like, whoa, Teresa, thank you for helping me with my seizure there. Anyway, I almost went like, coo, 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 scratch it out. It's like, I always skip Proverbs 31. Nah, I don't want to know about her. She's too convicting. But Esther 5:5. Let's go to Esther 5:5. It says, then the king said, cause Haman to make haste that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. So she made things a little more enjoyable for him. That, she didn't just blurt it out once they got around. Okay, let's get out of the, come over here, out of the corner, in the corner. Get away from everybody. Okay, she made things nice for him, relaxing, peaceful. I don't know why she didn't say anything the first day. I don't know if she's maybe got a vibe, like maybe this is, I don't know. I've always wondered that, though, to be honest with you. She did not, she practiced, we talked about this some, respectfulness, but let's look at Esther 7, verses 2 through 6. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine. Remember, she had him come a second time. What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, Let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I'd have held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. So she's saying, if we're just going to be sold to be slaves, okay, our people kind of used to it. We've had that happen. We've been there before. Okay, I wouldn't have said anything. But no, they're going to kill us. And the king answered, this is verse 5 in chapter 7. Then the king answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so? You signed the decree, dude. And you don't even remember? That's okay. I've written plays before and people said, what was that line? I was like, I don't know. I wrote it, but I don't remember. Anyway, so that makes me think, I know he probably had to make a lot of decisions, but it sounds like he did do a lot of stuff without really kind of thinking it through and just sign it. And then he was like, oh, let's honor that person. Oh, yeah, I need to honor that person who warned me I might be assassinated. Who was that? Wasn't I supposed to do that a while ago? Like, yeah, king, you were. Oh, well, let's do that now. Come here, Mordecai. So he obviously had, like, I'm not criticizing him because it's totally my brain as well. I mean, anyway. But she's showing this as respectful. And she's trying to, like, notice she didn't blurt out again. It's Haman. Haman right there. That guy next to you. He's trying to kill us all. She's like, if we're just going to be slaves, I wouldn't have said anything. She's being very soft. I personally don't have a soft personality, so this would take probably double prayer and double fasting. But if I've double fasted, I'm already a mean person. Okay? I'm just going to warn you. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. But like the time we fasted for one of Grant's tests and buds when he was training to be a SEAL, and we said, Jeff and I said, we'll fast until we hear the results. But he never was able to call us back with results. So like on day 5, we finally decided that it was done. Okay. Sorry. But we didn't kill each other, so fasting works. Okay? Fasting works. But I was like, just kind of thin. I don't know if you should be doing this. But anyway, I have some spare, but okay. She sought to protect the king from damage too. She's like, she didn't say, you wrote a decree because you were influenced by your dude. She didn't put it out like him. She could have, rightfully so, but I don't think that would have been helpful. So something, that thing about just because it's true doesn't mean you need to say it. If it's helpful, think about if it's helpful. Yeah, so I like how she was doing this. Now, God's response. First of all, that she didn't even get killed at the first thing. He held out the scepter to her. I think that was God's provision. Why do I think that? We've already shown you. We've already talked about how this guy's a hothead. And he even, he tried to beat the Greeks, and he just had some decision problems, right? Did y'all know he gets assassinated by his own people later? Anyway, but he's not one to be calm and think things through from what we're seeing. So the fact that he held that scepter out to her instead of saying, why are you in here? I didn't say you could be in here. And I really don't know how often she saw him. Because when these kings would have harems and concubines and stuff, they could go months. They didn't share a bedroom. Sometimes they didn't even share the same house. So I don't know how long, I don't know how close they were. I really don't know if it's not like they were like sharing daily conversation, when you see the king and queen of England. It wasn't like that at all.
They were not a couple.
No. He's a king.
Mm-hmm.
She's just, I don't know. Yeah, it was not a marriage like we think of today, Then God brought to the king's mind that, hey, someone did save me from being assassinated. Let's reward him. That showed, I think that was God's hand. And that later helped with Mordecai if, now the king is thinking, okay, this is a pretty good dude. Because he's not even one of my people, but he made sure I didn't get assassinated. So I can trust him. And so I think later you see he gives Mordecai authority to do what he wants, and they write Mordecai and Esther get pretty brutal, kill about 50,000 people, blah blah blah, that were trying to kill Jews. Of course, this is a different culture and time period than we are today. But so obviously, I think the Lord put this in place so that King would be soft towards Mordecai and not just whatever. And the Jews were spared. They were about to be literally exterminated, extinct, just wiped out. And if this had happened, then later we wouldn't have the rebuilding of Jerusalem in Nehemiah. So obeying God commands, because God commands it, not always because the other person deserves it. King didn't always deserve to be obeyed. He was brutal. But God honored it because he asked Esther to be submissive to authority. If the authority's mind that you're dealing with won't be changed, and it's not breaking God's law, okay, or the laws of the land, still obey, and remember that God will take care of things. Now, again, we're not talking about, this is where people, well, if she's in an abusive marriage, this is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about submitting to being abused. Okay? That is not what we're talking about. So that, I know they're playing music. So the reason why we have the tiaras was Esther was placed in a position to show submission to authority, which eventually it revealed her relationship to God. Esther became a wife to a king. We are daughters of the king. The king, the only king. It is our responsibility to show our relationship with God as we obey him by showing a submission to the authorities over us. And I have some handouts for you because we're running out of time. There's verses about, the reason why I got the tiaras was it's so hard to want to obey today our authorities. But remember, in heaven, we're going to be rewarded crowns for what we did. We have the crown of righteousness, the crown of life, the incorruptible crown, the crown of rejoicing, the crown of glory, and then we're going to throw them at Jesus's feet. So I have all that on this handout. But the reason why why I didn't focus on such a time as this is because, in my opinion, if I'm just continually filled with the Spirit, like Ephesians 5:18. Then I'm going to be obeying God and submitting to authorities, and that means I'm always going to be ready to do whatever he calls me to do to begin with. So I don't have to worry about such a time as this, if I just obey anyway. And then I'll have the glory of the crown to get to cast at his feet, cast at his feet nicely, not in a mean way. And so I'm using this crown. It hurts. I've been having it on my desk to remind me of obeying God. So that's why I want y'all to keep yours. You can give it away. You will not hurt my feelings. You can re-gift it. But if it helps you remember in your personal Bible study about obeying God, then I say do it. And online folks, if you have a prayer request, text them to me. I see something, but I can't read from that far away. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see y'all in January. It's going to be a while.